Hi, Screwball82, with my second movie review. I've rather cleverly gone and chosen to do a review on a film that is a rather divisive film. On IMDb it's got like 7 out of 10 as an average, but is a tough one. Philip Seymour Hoffman as the lead in the lead, and it's a Charlie Kaufman film. He's responsible for the writing of Being John Malkovich and Eternal Sunshine. So if you're into his work at all, you don't need telling twice that you've got to be somewhat prepared. I realised that this was going to be a challenge, doing a review for this film. I didn't realise until I'm sat here now how much of a challenge it was going to be. It's genuinely a movie that it's kind of tough to know where to start. It's a strange experience, and that may well be the best review you're going to get. I've only seen it once, obviously, and some would argue, it would be a fair argument, I think, that might not be the best position from which to review this film, but like I just said, I don't know that I would want to put myself through it again. Philip Seymour Hoffman plays Caden, who is a theatre director, who appears to be putting on a play in which she's made some unusual casting choices, and the play in the film looks to me like it's Death of a Salesman. If I remember that play correctly, and again, apologies if that's not right, but I'm pretty sure it's Death of a Salesman, which, given the film, is quite appropriate. Anyhow, his life appears to be in something of a disarray. Is in a marriage that's sort of on the surface. It's one of those situations where, on the surface, the front is good, but there's something not obviously bubbling away under the surface for a while. That's what I got anyway. He's got bad dentistry. He's got a possibly fatal illness. He has this odd fascination with death and the obituaries, and the only place he seems to be able to put any real passion into anything is the theatre, is his play, and during the first act of the film, he decides that he's going to write and direct a play that's going to be, real and brutal and honest and, something important. And then it's not long before he finds himself apparently sucked into what is a recreation of his own life. The sets are all being built in this big warehouse, and he's recreating New York in this warehouse, and apparently sort of directing and playing out his own life experiences in a play that doesn't appear to be being written. It's eternally being written. At one point I believe a character says, but it's been 10 years, in the making. And so just from that, you can probably take that it's an odd piece of work, and I apologise again for this being so clunky a review, but it really is a film that's tough to sort of talk about, off the tip of your tongue. The film itself is sprawling with ideas. If you're familiar with his previous work, you know what to expect. But I would say, even to that, I would say that be warned. you may be surprised how odd this one gets. If you thought Eternal Sunshine was tough, then you haven't seen anything yet. All the offbeat humour and the stuff that appeared in his that he's known for is present, and the dialogue is all typical of Kaufman. The performances can't be faulted, least of all Philip Seymour Hoffman, who is one of my favourite actors. He can do anything, and he's coming to prove that with every role he takes. I really love that man, and I hope he keeps doing. I just hope he keeps going. Aside from him, you've got Catherine Keener, you've got Michelle Williams, Jennifer Jason Leigh. The list actually goes on, and a lot of them are sort of these great character actors who've turned up here and there, and you go, oh, I know them. Everybody in the movie is great. They give a real, really thoughtful performance. I do have to say, I wonder if they all knew where they were headed at the time. It must be said. I don't know how Kaufman directed this exactly to keep them all. Well, this is your motivation. This is what's actually going on, and who knows. The film's main focus does appear to be the fact that we're all hurtling towards death. It's the one and only certainty of life. Caden's obsession with creating and being audience to his own life is taken to visual extremes. Visual metaphors all the way through the film, and the whole thing is sort of the product of a creator in Kaufman who really doesn't care that much if you're keeping up. He asks you to follow his logic, and if you can't, then that's not his problem. It's yours. And in a way, it's kind of what I both admired and found annoying about the film. Technically, as you're watching it, you can see Kaufman's brain fires on all cylinders. He's a brilliant writer, and you just kind of got to go with it. The problem I found with the film was that logic was so twisted. The story curls in on itself, and to such a degree, with actors playing different parts in scenes that are repeated, his own experiences sort of represented by these sort of repeated ideas and repeated scenes with different people playing the same character, and it seems to represent sort of this eternal struggle to in this play that's never going anywhere, never doing anything, and it illustrates nicely that sort of this futile attempt to for him to find some self-worth. I've got no problem with challenge in cinema, but there's got to be some sort of a cathartic, something cathartic about it. And the humour aside, which I did laugh at on a few points. This kind of sharp, snappy, amusing. The exchanges are really good. But that aside, I found it very difficult to grasp onto anything in the film, really. Yes, scenes, in themselves are emotional and well played, but when you string them all together, there was just nothing there for me. And I am aware that this is a film that is going to get very personal reactions. I mean, I didn't get on with it, whereas you might think it's amazing, but I'm just trying to give an overview on how challenging it was, and how difficult it was to sort of get into the film for me. Then you add to this the insistence that the film has of sort of going on about our existence and the futility of our existence and loneliness. And there's a quote in the film, where is it? Everybody's disappointing the longer you know them. And that, you know, the entire final section of the movie is weighed down with this sort of negative rumination of, you know, it all weighs down on you, so all the negativity sort of weighs down so heavily, and all this kind of loneliness and this awful feeling I found, that I ended up feeling sort of suffocated by the truth of it all. And, you know, it was just a rather bleak, and I think rather convoluted idea. You know, like I say, I don't deny that the writing is great, the performances are good, and I even admire Kaufman's sort of sincerity and his attempt to play with the form of cinema, you know, do something interesting with it. You know, I do find it tough to say that it was a wholly successful film. I couldn't really connect with it. As I say, I found it rather bleak. So, in summary, you know, it might be brilliant in some respects, and if this sort of offbeat existentialist sort of drama, I mean, it's kind of billed as a comedy, but I find it hard to think of it as that. You know, it's not. It might be up your. It might be up your street, but be warned, it is, in my opinion, the toughest Kaufman film, and it's a bit overlong, and I think ultimately just a bit too difficult and sort of weighed down. It's you know, it's weighed down by what it's trying to do. I think a bit too much. I think it's trying to do a bit too much, and it's just this ultimately rather unsatisfying experience to me. So things I liked about it: dialogue between characters, and the performances led by Hoffman, superb. Pretty much everything else I didn't like. So, but it's, like I say, it's a film that is a very personal reaction. So I've been I think rather generous in saying that I'm giving it 6 out of 10. I'm only giving it 6 really because I do recognise, all my personal stuff aside, I do recognise that there's a lot going on in the film that other people will probably, if it's your sort of thing, you'll probably admire and relate to, but I couldn't really grasp it. So, Synecdoche, New York, if you're a big Kaufman fan, it's worth a look. As I say, 6 out of 10.